Panasonic, the heart of your system.
I'm Leo Walder for Kit Guru. Welcome to my Thermaltake world of RGB. There's a lot of RGB here at CES. We have, to start with, the desk that we saw at Computex. There is some RGB-ness going on. Briony did that video, as I recall, and then we have a typical setup, which is just a whole bunch of RGB. No particularly new products here, it's just, as ever, showing the ecosystem of the What's-It, and we look through the side of the case, and it's RGB galore. And then we move around. This is the Thermaltake Rgb Software. I used it recently in their water RAM for my review for the launch for that. Oh, that's interesting. And here we have a warning, because it's multi-function software. It's not just RGB, it's also controlling the entire ecosystem. RGB power supplies, pretty much everything in this suite is, you've got options for either full digital RGB, addressable RGB, or regular RGB that plugs into a motherboard and or requires a control unit. So basically they've got, as far as I can see, options for every type of RGB on the market. This is the result of an RGB power supply in action. Looks pretty nice. They do make the point that all their RGB has the option of turning it off, which is sometimes welcome. Here we have, what the hell's that V-Core case? Can't remember the name of it. Never mind, we'll move on. Moving down the line, we've got RGB fans. These are dual and triple rings of RGBs. This is dual, that's triple. Here's the funny thing. So this is 2 rings, and you can set them to independent patterns. Triple, you can do a similar thing. So you can, for example, have the back ring set to monitor, say, temperature, and the front could be responding to your music or whatever it might be, whatever you prefer. But to my mind, it means that the triple rings, you can actually see the LEDs from the front, whereas these are kind of in the fan. So they're all fully addressable. They do actually have quite a different look, and that fella there, the sticker on the center of the hub, is out of whack, and we don't like that. Moving along, I don't know what that means. They probably don't want to be showing that, but never mind. Again, the TTRGB Plus software in action, and then we have a setup of fans, and then we have the water RAM. So here's the water RAM that I recently reviewed that I quite liked, albeit I said in my review, to my mind, it's for a very select bunch of RGB warriors, in that the installation is something of a nightmare in many cases because of the vertical clearance you require. Plenty of the Thermaltake cases over there have got all the vertical clearance in the world. So you're set up with this. If you're water cooling, you have to put your tubes in. It's tricky. The installed height, switching to this example over here, it's quite tall. The DIMMs are conventional height. That is purely additional. Any liquid cooling on top, if you're liquid cooling, is extra, so it's tall. And then we see this over here, which we weren't aware of. It's like an RGB shroud for your RAM. If you actually don't want to have their specific RAM, you can literally clip this housing over the top. I wasn't aware of this product. I'm actually genuinely excited. I mean, it's obviously very silly, but here's the other thing. It actually gets to show you, it shows you that from the inside, the LEDs are really obvious. You can see them individually. Those diffusers are blooming brilliant. I mean, that's almost seamless, really nifty RGB effect. Obviously, if you don't want RGB RAM, it's just blooming ridiculous. I mean, make notes, it just is. But that, as a way of adding RGB to your memory with a minimum of fuss, I like it. The water RAM, those haters on the YouTube video I did, I fully understand why you might not like it. I think I said in the review, it's for a very select customer base. For those people, I think they're going to love it. Moving down the line, we've got some show builds for CES. So we've got the level 20 there. That's a distribution plate showing off the whole liquid cooling thing. And it looks like I'm guessing that's steel tubing. So very smart. Actually, Stuart.
Yeah, so basically this is a sort of a clean build in Thermaltake. This is their flagship 20th year anniversary level 20 case. If you're sort of familiar with this one, I did change the overall color from the normal sort of grey you see on the other ones to the black. I wanted to try and sort of contrast it differently because I knew most of the cases here would be the silver looking ones, And I didn't want to sort of alter this case too much. I was kind of instructed from HQ not to sort of hack it up, because it is like, I think, $1,400 Australian. So I didn't want to really sort of do too much on the exterior, change it too much. And then I just got this massive big sort of reservoir water channel in the front, and then I just went with some clean tubing inside it.
What is the tubing inside?
That is just, I think it's either brass or copper, and then it is chrome plated.
Wow.
So you can get it off places like AliExpress, and it comes pre-bent, so you don't have to worry about bending it, because you can't really bend chrome plated tube. You need to get it in its raw copper form, bend it, and then get it plated, but the cost of that is just way too much.
And the thing is, it's very honest to say that. I was looking at it, I was blown away. I thought you'd done this in your workshop on your own. I was I'm impressed, but I was deadly impressed.
Yeah, especially in Australia, it's really hard to get things like just this tubing and getting it bent and then getting it plated afterwards. It just costs like hundreds and hundreds of dollars, where you can go on AliExpress and you can get one run that's already pre-bent for like $13-14.
Thank you very much, Stuart. Appreciate it.
No worries.
Great. Terrific, cheers. There we go, you see, buying advice from Kit Guru and GGF. Excellent. So that's the lowdown on that system by the man who built it himself. Moving along, more show builds. The cards say that, if I'd but realised I'd have got Tonks to tell me about this one as well. He's been busy. And then we move along the end, and we move to the cases. And this is a whole series of cases that we saw at Computex. There is one new case that I've noticed. So, very quickly, Level 20 VT, this is their idea of a micro case, because nominally it is small by their standards, but obviously it's big. Relatively cheap, all the panels can come off, it's a cube, and you can put the panels in any order you like. Going down, Level 20 MT ARGB, so addressable RGB, that's the point there, although tragically it's not actually working, so that doesn't really help us. Level 20 XT Cube, big boy. I used that chassis for the Water Ram review. It's just blooming huge. It's so huge that essentially you're obliged to put a rad in the bottom. Many cases you really can't do that. Here you're pretty much obliged to it to fill the space, otherwise it looks, frankly, a little bit daft. So there's a radiator in the floor, radiator in the roof, and a dual loop as well, and there's still space. It is an enormous chassis. Moving down the line, we've got Level 20, so we've seen this before. We saw this at Computex. There's a little man in the top just to show the size of the thing. It's triple compartment, so we've got cooling in the front. Is to separate airflow from water temperature, but you can see how it's arranged. Again, a massive case, quite expensive, and clearly if you're not doing an absolute full-out build, then you're wasting your time. Flipping back to the VT, the front shows you the two 200mm RGB fans, RGB galore. 200mm fans are becoming a thing with Thermaltake. Makes sense because of the size of the chassis. Further down the line, another Level 20. This one's unusual in that they're trying out a blue. They call it Miami blue. I'm not sure what specific Miami blue is, just to see whether the market's interested in colours that aren't black, white, gunmetal. And frankly, we welcome any innovation. Even a different colour is a good thing. This is the new case. So, we have previously seen at a show, Computex it was, the A500 aluminium case. This that looks the same is the S500, it's actually steel. It's a more budget take on the A500. This is the A700, so like the 500, it's bigger. It's as simple as that. And in this room, it's actually quite tricky telling what is big and what is small, because everything is big. And then we have the cooling systems. Thermaltake recently announced for the start of CES their liquid cooling systems, either with hard or soft tubing, 360, RGB galore. So basically, the name tells you what this is. That's all good stuff. In addition, we have copper radiators that have been worked on and revised. They're continuing to work and revise their liquid cooling hardware, which is a welcome thing. Down here, Threadripper Waterblock, which again, actually in the context of the cases we've seen, it will just slip into place because that is your more conventional Thermaltake block, which is still quite a hefty beast. Revised GPU block, this is for the 2070, RTX 2070, looks very similar to RTX 2080. and we're going to finish up here with some coolant. We have some solid coolant and we have some clear coolant. That is essentially dyed water. Solid coolant, they have to put something in the water to give it the color and give it the opacity. Some people have run into problems with their coolant. The View in particular was a problem. EKWB, their cryofuel solid, seems to be going very nicely indeed. There's an awful lot visually of similarity between what Thermaltake has done there and what EKWB has done, and that has to be absolutely welcomed. There's an awful lot on show here, but it's RGB galore. If you don't like RGB, they do have the off button, but wow, there's a lot to see. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you don't, give it a thumbs down if you're that mean. I'm Leo Ward for Kit Guru. This is Thermaltake at CES.